Hi, it's me, Vicki Marie. And I thought tonight, as I'm talking about prophecies, and Mother Shipton, who of course was thought of as a witch, because basically anyone who was a single woman in those times was thought of as a witch. I thought, well, I'll wear like my little pussycat mask. But I have to say, it's hot because another thing I need to tell you before I start is the reason it's hot, particularly, is because I've got all the windows closed and everything. Because tonight is the last night of the fiestas in my little village, and there will be a big fireworks show. So it's all really quiet at the moment because today is the day of our saint of our village or whatever. So they're doing something religious at the moment. But then it will all finish off with a huge firework display. So at some point, I may have finished by that, it may not be till 10, but at some point there will be a massive firework display. So just to let you know that might happen in the middle of the stream. It normally does, doesn't it? We normally get something going on in the middle of the stream. But the reason I've got my little pussycat mask on is because I'm talking about prophecies. I'll be talking about Mother Shipton. I'll be talking about Nostradamus. I also found another person, a prophesier, would it be, or a soothsayer, which I hadn't really heard of before, which is Baba Vanga, who's from the Balkans. So I'm going to talk about her, and I'm also going to talk about, of course, the prophecies in the Revelations, in the Bible, the Revelations prophecies. So, because once I started looking into it, I found quite a lot of different things about prophecies. So just those things. So first thing I want to say is thank you to everybody who has either subscribed to my channel, liked any of my videos, just sat back and watched, sent me a Ko-fi, bought me a Ko-fi, sent me a super, become a member, all these things that you've done to support my channel. Thank you so much, all of you. And I know some of you be sitting watching, don't like to join in the chat. So if you, that's fine too. Just watching is a fantastic support to my channel. So just thank you so much, because you're what keep me going. If it wasn't for all you watching, liking, subscribing, etc., and me knowing that means you're enjoying my content, I just wouldn't do it, because when I get down about it, I'm not down about it at the moment, I'm on a high at the moment, but as you know, sometimes I get a bit fed up if I get trolled or whatever, and it's all you lovely people that keep me going. So okay, so what I'm going to do is say hello to everybody first. You can see you've all been here chatting. Hi Chumba, hi Daisy May, hi Desi, hi David. Your mask went down well last night, didn't it? Yeah, I want to see more masks next week in the members live. Hi Rio. I said hello to Desi. I hope I don't miss anybody. I'm trying hard not to miss anyone, but hi Irish Eyes, hope you're okay. I know you're looking forward to this one. Hi Ebziba Pink. Oh, that's a brilliant name, isn't it? Hi. Don't let anyone frighten you off. They're all lovely people on here. Ralmo might put in an appearance. Well, do you know what? Honestly, I just know it's going to happen. It's so quiet at the moment because everybody will be at the church square doing whatever they do with the saint or whatever. And there's no bulls. In my village, there's none of that animal cruelty. Well, depends what you call that. It's animal cruelty to have to listen to all the bloody fireworks. But no, there's no animal cruelty in my village. A saucy mask. It's a saucy mask, isn't it? It's quite hot because I've got all, normally I've got all my windows open and I have got the fans on, but I haven't got the air conditioning on. Hi, Tina. Like everyone saying hello to each other. Hi, Stuart. I'm Catwoman tonight. Yeah, I'm going to be Catwoman tonight. I always wanted to be Catwoman. Right. Just going down. Hi, Serotonin. I think I've said hello to everyone who's in the chat, but I want to say hello to everyone who's at home, who's just watching from home. I know sometimes people are a bit nervous of joining in the chat or whatever, but they like to watch from home. That's brilliant. Hello to all you too, and thank you for being here. So hi, Heather. We're going to start off with the stories or the legend that is Mother Shipton. So I thought we'd start off with Mother Shipton because she is like, she's the British one, isn't she? I mean, she's like what they call her, the Yorkshire Nostradamus, because she's actually from Yorkshire. So we're going to start off talking about Mother Shipton. Sometimes they call her Old Mother Shipton. It's a very interesting story about Mother Shipton and her prophecies, which, some people claim they're true, they came true. But of course, there is a cave in Yorkshire that you can go and visit, Mother Shipton's cave. Some people were saying the other day in the chat that they'd actually been to the cave. So obviously, I'm going to look at that first, the actual tourist website, for Mother Shipton. So we've got to remember that this is a tourist place. It's like, Loch Ness. It's in their interests to suggest that Mother Shipton is real, or she was well, I think she was a real person. I don't think it's actually contested that she was a real person, but that her prophecies were real, etc. So we're going to look at that first. I know some of you have been to the caves. Hi, Saskia. I got your email. I'm going to reply to that in the morning, if that's okay. Thank you so much for that. But I normally reply to emails in the morning. But yeah, I've got it. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're thinking of learning Spanish. Okay, so let's have a look a little bit at the legend of Mother Shipton. So this is the story of Mother Shipton's cave. And they're on their website, they're saying it's the story of England's most famous prophetess. Mother Shipton is England's most famous prophetess. She foretold the fates of several rulers within and just after her lifetime, as well as the invention of iron ships, the Great Fire of London in 1666, and the defeat of the Spanish Armada. So, as well as making traditional remedies, Mother Shipton had another gift. She could predict the future. It started with small premonitions, but as she practiced, she became more confident and her powers grew. Soon she was known as Knaresborough's prophetess, a witch. Now, I think it's important to remember in those days, because she was married briefly, I'm going to look at that in a moment, but her husband died, so she lived on her own. Any woman that lived on their own, who had, especially if they had a black cat, was considered a witch in those days, wasn't it? It was like, that was just you had really what choice as a woman. You had very few choices. It was either be a wife, be a sort of a witch or a prophetess or whatever, or be a sex worker. Really, there wasn't much choice for women. Your status depended on whether you were married or not. So she made her living telling the future and warning those who asked of what was to come. And after a long life, she died in 1561, aged 73. Now, 73, I know these days is not that old, but in those days, I think the life expectancy was probably about 50 or if that. So, you know, most people died very young. So she lived a long life for the, you know, for the era that she came from. So this is a statue to her that, you know, she's always sort of portrayed as like a hag type character, isn't she? So she was born Ursula Sonthael in 1488 during the reign of Henry VII, father of Henry VIII. Now, I don't know what you know about history. I personally, I love history, especially the Tudors is very interesting, isn't it? And maybe one day we'll do some videos on that, because the story of Henry VIII and his wives and Henry VII, how he became to be king. You know, it's all fascinating stuff. Anyway, little is known about her parents, but legend has it she was born during a violent thunderstorm in a cave on the banks of the River Nid in Knaresborough. Her mother Agatha was just 15 years old when she gave birth, and despite being dragged before the local magistrate, she would not reveal who the father was. And I mean, of course, in those, oh my God, I mean, it's bad enough today, isn't it? But in those days, the mother would be blamed as a 15-year-old girl to get pregnant, unmarried. It would all be her fault, wouldn't it? But she would not reveal, apparently. And this has been the theme on all the websites that I've looked at, all the research that I've done. That she never said who the father was. So it makes you wonder who the father was, doesn't it? Maybe she didn't know who the father was, or maybe it was her father, or, you know, because there would have been probably a lot of incest. So it's a very mysterious story. Anyway, she had no family and no friends to support her, and she raised Ursula in a cave on her own for 2 years before the abbot of Beverley took pity on them, and a local family took Ursula in. So they took Mother Shipton, well, she wasn't called Mother Shipton then, Ursula, in, but Agatha, her mum, was taken to a nunnery far away, where she died a few years later. Now, we don't know how old she was when she died, but she was probably quite young, because she was only 15 when she had Ursula. And they never saw each other again. So she never saw her daughter again. And Ursula never saw her mother again. So Ursula grew up around Knaresborough. She was a strange child. Like, so any pictures of her or the statue, or they always portray her in, you know, look, she's got this sort of hook nose and the chin. You know, this is your archetypal. I should have had a witch's hat to put on today, though she wasn't a witch. You know, she wasn't. I mean, she was probably thought of as a witch, but she did survive till she was 73, so at least she was never tried as a witch. But she was a strange child, both in looks and in nature. Her nose was large and crooked, her back bent, and her legs twisted just like a witch. She was taunted and teased by the local people. Well, you can imagine, can't you? And so in time she learnt she was best off on her own. She spent most of her days around the cave where she was born. And there she studied the forest, the flowers, herbs, made remedies and potions with them. So it's ironic, really, because although people probably were quite nasty to her and, you know, thought of her as a witch, but they would go to her when they had problems, you know, so it's ironic, really. But when she was 24, she met a young man by the name of Tobias Shipton. Well, we have we don't know what he was like, but he was a carpenter from the city of York. Now, my question would be, how did she meet him? Did he go to her for help or whatever? And, you know, as everyone said, you know, she was strange and she was ugly and she was this, that and the other. But, you know, Tobias liked her enough to propose to her, and she got married. There was a lot of speculation. You know, people were absolutely shocked that she'd got married, that she'd found someone to marry, because, of course, in those days, that was a pinnacle that a woman could achieve, is to find someone to marry her. Anyway, he died very shortly after, and they didn't have any children, but she kept his name Shipton. So that's where Shipton comes from. And of course, then there was a lot of speculation. There was speculation that she'd cast some sort of spell on him to get him to marry her in the first place. And then there was speculation that she'd had something to do with his death, you know. So anyway, the mother part followed later when she was an old woman. So this is a 500-year-old legend. The prophecies, we're going to look at the prophecies that she made. Yeah, every time I see, so you've got the hunchback, the big nose, the big chin. I wonder what she really, oops, you know, you wish you could sort of see what she really looked like, don't you? Maybe she did look like that, don't know. The prophecies may not all be historically correct, and the stories may have been embellished slightly over the centuries, more than slightly, no doubt. But she remains one of those legendary figures of romance and folklore entwined in our imaginations and the local surroundings. So she's like a British Nostradamus, isn't she? You know, so come and see yourself, for yourself, the cave where she was born and the historic forest in which she grew up and lived. And I would really like to go there. I know some of you were saying the other day that you've been there. Lovely. Anyway, although we cannot be sure how much of the legend is true, what is certain is, or must be certain, 500 years ago, a woman called Mistress Shipton lived here in Knaresborough, and then when she spoke, people believed her and passed her words on. So that's what they've got to say about her on the website for the tourist attraction, which is Mother Shipton's cave. Right, just let me make sure I haven't missed anybody. Hi, Claire. You like the mask? You like the mask? Yeah, you know, it's grown on. I just wish it wasn't so hot, but yeah. Oh, Irish Eyes, thank you so much. That's very kind. Thank you. Let's see. I'm just making sure I'm saying hello to anybody. She does have a large nose. No shit, David. She had no luck in the looks department. But she still, I mean, she got married. I mean, do you know what? So, you know, she didn't do that badly, did she? Yeah, Rio, there you go for your next trip. Oh, right, okay. So, thank you, Irish Eyes. So, let's have a look what somebody else says about her, because I want to see about her actual prophecies, of course. So that's more or less the background, the backstory about her. Let's have a look. Oh, the other things we're going to look at all prophecies and predictions tonight. So we're going to look at Mother Shipton, Nostradamus. We're going to have a look at the revelations from the Bible, because they were predictions too. And also Simpsons predictions that came true, because there's 20 Simpsons predictions that have come true as well. I don't know if you've heard about that, but the Simpsons are famous for predictions that came true as well. But anyway, we're starting off with Mother Shipton. So the biggest sort of, or if you like, the most famous predictions that she made, because she was alive at the time of King Henry VIII. Well, in the beginning with King Henry VII, and then when he died, and King Henry VIII became king. So let's see. So we talked about her, you know, how she was. Oh, this is a bit of a more flattering picture of her. I think it's not quite, you know, you can see she's got a bit of a strange nose, but it's not quite as horrible as, you know, the drawings, etc. So yeah, twisted body, a hooked nose. So there were some stories about when she was a child, she was found cackling in her foster mother's kitchen with pots and pans. And another talked about incident included the time a parish meeting was disrupted when she played tricks on the local men who had been mocking her through the window. So the talk of strange and unexplained phenomenon, oh, I can never say that word, phenomenons. That was a good film, actually. Did you ever see that film, Phenomenon, with John Travolta? What a brilliant film that was. Occurring in retaliation for ridiculing her. So, yeah, you know, people did ridicule her, and it became known that if you dared to publicly mock Ursula, you could expect to be on the receiving end of her wrath. You know, she would make something happen. So she dealt with the local community by keeping to herself and spending a lot of time in the woods and in the cave where she'd been born. She studied the woodland, and that's where she learned how to make potions, etc. And it's quite strange, isn't it? Because it's sort of almost back in fashion now, isn't it? That it's like foraging. A lot of people go out now, don't they, and forage in the woods, etc. and make, you know, we're much more into sort of natural remedies and things now, like from years ago, and I mean centuries ago. People are more interested, you know, in herbalism and things like that than they were sort of 10, 20 years ago. So awareness of Ursula's abilities and knowledge as a herbalist began to grow within the community, and soon became a very called on resource for those wishing for her to cure their ailments. I think if I lived near a woods, I would go out and do things like that. I would definitely be thought of as being a witch. I know I would, because I'm just not the norm. Anyway, Ursula's talents helped her to ingratiate herself with the community. Oh, and that's when she met Tobias. But I think, let me see. I think it was only 2 years later, 2 years after marrying, Tobias Shipton passed away. And there were rumours that she'd been involved in his passing. So anyway, now I want to get on to her actual prophecies now. So she started her predictions in small ways, noting minor occurrences that would happen locally before moving on to larger predictions with greater ramifications. So she had a prediction. She predicted water would come over the Ouse Bridge and reach a windmill that would be set on a tower. And initially, when she said that, they, you know, everyone just sort of poo-pooed it. But then, shortly after that, the water system was introduced, which brought water across the Ouse Bridge in pipes. And those pipes, I read on another website that the pipes, let me just have a look. The pipes were made out of some kind of tree, some kind of wood, and she had mentioned that as well. And so the pipes were made out of the wood. The water came over, and then people had water at their houses, and it came over in pipes that reached a windmill, and that is what she had said. And then another of her local prophecies included the destruction of the Trinity Church, which she said would fall in the night till the highest stone in the church be the lowest stone of the bridge. And not long after this statement, a terrible storm fell on Yorkshire, destroying the steeple of the church and causing it to land upon the bridge. So these sort of local predictions sort of led to her getting more and more famous, if you like. And it's thought that her prophecies even came to the attention of King Henry VIII, because in one letter that he sent to the Duke of Norfolk, he mentioned a witch of York. And if you've ever watched Blackadder, you know, I think that sort of comes up in Blackadder as well. But, you know, that's a TV program. I'm not saying that's true. But I wonder if King Henry VIII, because, of course, he was trying to have a son, wasn't he? And he was struggling. Just makes you wonder if anybody sent anyone to her to, you know, see if there was anything he could do to help him have a son, or maybe one of his wives, particularly Anne Boleyn, who was desperate, wasn't she, for a son, because she knew her days were numbered. Yeah, makes you wonder if anyone ever went and tried to get any potions for that. Didn't have Viagra then, so you know you had to go to Mother Shipton's. You couldn't just go and buy a Viagra. You couldn't just go and buy a box of Viagra on the internet. You had to go and see old Mother Shipton in the cave. Anyway, the most famous predictions, if you like, was the Great Fire of London. Apparently, the royal family, you know, believed in Mother Shipton and said she'd predicted the event. And then another prediction she made was about King Henry VIII and Thomas Wolsey, his right-hand man at the time. And she said, well, apparently exactly what she said was this: the mitred peacock's lofty cry should to his master be a guide. And it's said that this description alludes to Wolsey's lower class background, as he was the son of a butcher before he rose to become a chief advisor to King Henry and guide his policy making. And then she foresees Thomas Wolsey's fate at the time of his demise, because he fell out of favour because he could not secure the annulment of Henry VIII's marriage to Catherine of Aragon. Henry's first wife was Spanish, Catherine of Aragon, and she had failed to give him a son. They had one healthy child, which was Mary, wasn't it, who did become queen eventually, but she failed to give him a son. I say failed to give him a son. Maybe he failed to give her a son, you know, I mean, whichever way you look at it. But of course, at the time, it was all the woman's fault. And Henry believed it was Catherine of Aragon's fault, and he then divorced. Well, he wanted to divorce her and marry Anne Boleyn. But the thing is, Catherine of Aragon was Spanish. She was a confirmed Catholic. She didn't believe in divorce. She wouldn't give him a divorce. The Pope wouldn't give him a divorce. So, you know, he had to sort of practically, that's why he broke away from the Catholic Church. And see, there you go. That is why Britain or England certainly is not, that's why it's no longer a Catholic country. That's where the Protestant religion came from, etc. If it wouldn't have been for that fact that Catherine of Aragon could not give him a son, or because eventually time went on and she just went through the menopause, and so she could not have any more children, and that's when he was determined that he was going to marry again. And if it wouldn't have been for that, it's ironic, isn't it? You know, then the whole of England would still have remained Catholic, and it resulted in, you know, religion causes so many wars, doesn't it? So many problems. That's why I don't believe in religion. Anyway, so she foresaw that he would die. Thomas Wolsey would die, and he died from natural causes. Well, so they say, on a journey between London and York. And she had said he will never reach his destination, and he never did reach his destination. So she also predicted the dissolution of the monasteries by Henry VIII, because of course he had to break away from the Pope then, because he wanted to marry again. The Pope had said no, he couldn't marry again because he wouldn't grant a divorce or an annulment of his marriage. So he broke away and created his own religion, and then he, you know, that was the persecution of the Catholics, you know, began, which led to, and then there was persecution of the Protestants, wasn't it? You know. So anyway, but that's when she got particularly famous, because of what she'd foretold, what would happen to Cardinal Wolsey, what would happen to the monasteries, etc. So yeah, so finally she died at 73, which, as I say, is a very, very good age in those years. I mean, Henry VIII didn't make it past, I think he was in his 50s. All his wives, you know, Anne Boleyn, of course, she got her head cut off, but even his younger wives didn't make it as long as that. So she lived longer than everybody else. Anyway, an account of her life and prophecies was finally published in 1641, which was 80 years after her death. So she's, you know, she's our Nostradamus. She's Britain or England's Nostradamus. I just want to check any of the other. Have I got any other information? You know, and I think generally she would just became famous because of all the potions that she made and that. And if people needed anything, they would go to her. You know, as I say, no, we had no chemist then, no big pharma, no Viagra. You know, she was the one that they went to for help. So let me just come back to you, mate, see if I think that's hygiene. Oh, don't, you're having Chinese. Oh, I love Chinese food. Right, just let me make sure I haven't missed anybody else. I don't think I've missed anybody else coming in. I think I said hello to oh. Stuart, she lived in a cave. She was born in a cave because her mother was only 15 years old and wouldn't, and you know, imagine being pregnant at 15, unmarried in those times. It was terrible. So she, you know, she went to the cave to escape from from everyone, and so she was born in the cave and she lived in the cave for a couple of years until she was sort of more or less fostered by an abbot. And her mum went off to it, was sent to get thee to a nunnery. But she would go back to the cave for solace, really, because she didn't fit in, you know, in the normal life of her foster family and everything. So she would go off to the cave to be on her own. So, yeah. Yeah, she'd call her a recluse, I suppose. A lot of people were like hermits then as well. You know, it wasn't so unusual, was it? So for people to go off and live in caves, I suppose. I don't know. Hi, Renee. Yeah. Now, what I'll have to move to St. Michael's. Yes, St. Michael's is a bit of that. You could imagine a Mother Shipton there, couldn't you? It's a very strange place, very strange people. You know, sorry if anyone's watching for St. Michael's, but you know, I'm not saying anything about anyone in particular, but the people that I have seen or heard talk. Yeah. Hi, DMV. And yes, I agree, Saskia. Henry VIII, I mean, he was a horrible man. Well, I think when he was young, he was supposedly so handsome, wasn't he? And this, that, and the other. But, you know, and then, of course, he married Catherine of Aragon, and it was supposed to be a love match. But, yeah, as he got older, he just turned into this horrible person. You know, he just became like they do, and you know, got older and he just was working his way through all these women. Hi, Rustic Rage. Thank you. Yes, Mask. Yeah. What I was going to say, so, but in Henry VIII's defence, and not that I'm defending him because he was a nasty person in the end, but his whole what's the word? His whole raison d'etre, he had to have a son. That was it then, wasn't it? It wasn't, you know, he had to have it. I say that was that then. That's what it's like now as well. Why do you think Prince Charles married Princess Diana? He didn't love her. He was in love with Camilla. He married her because he had to have children by somebody, and once he had his 2 sons, that was it. He didn't have to be married to her anymore. That's how important, and if you multiply, that's how important that is now. But if you multiply that by 1,000,000, that's how important it was then to have a son to become king. And of course, ironically enough, one of his daughters, because he ended up having 2 daughters, one of which was Queen Elizabeth, who's one of the best or celebrated as one of the best monarchs that we've ever had, So it's quite ironic, really, isn't it? But then she never married, did she? She couldn't really marry. She had to sort of devote everything to being a queen. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So, I really do like history. I do find it very interesting. Oh, don't even go there, David. Anyway. Let's not talk about that. So that's Mother Shipton. So she's the Yorkshire Nostradamus. A lot of people refer to her as. So who am I going to go to? I think next. So while I was looking at Mother Shipton, this came, and as I say, this lady I didn't really know anything about. Did you know about her? Baba Vanga. So she's the Balkan Nostradamus, and she's more recent, much more recent. So she supposedly predicted Chernobyl and 9/11. So let's see what it's got to say here. On the 5th of March 1953, Joseph Stalin passed away a few days after suffering from a stroke. Now, I don't know how much you know about Stalin, but I did study Russian history at university, political history, and it's, gosh, when he died, they were terrified of. Wouldn't, they thought they were terrified that he might still be alive. It was ages before they would actually declare that he was dead, because everyone was so terrified of Stalin. He was such a horrible, horrible person. It took ages before, they would actually even approach him and touch him to make sure he was dead or whatever. But anyway, so that was on the 5th of March 1953. On the 26th of April 1986, gosh, a lot of things happened on the 20th. That's my dad's birthday. I seem to say that quite a lot. The world's worst nuclear disaster occurred at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. And on September the 11th, 2001, Al-Qaeda conducted a series of plane hijackings leading to the worst terrorist attacks in modern US history. Now, this Baba Vanga is supposed to have prophesied this. So these are three very different historical events that don't seem to have any obvious connection. But there's a thread running through each occurrence, one that has befuddled scientists and historians alike. The link is a blind woman from Bulgaria, known as Baba Vanga, or more prophetically as the Nostradamus of the Balkans. So supposedly gifted with mystic capabilities, Baba Vanga became globally famous due to the eerie accuracy of her predictions. Even though she passed away in 1996, people continue to wait with bated breath to hear her prophecies for each coming year, because before her death, she left behind predictions for every year. God, what was that? 50,079. At which point she believed the universe would cease to exist. So we're okay. The universe is not going to end in our lifetime, according to Baba Vanga anyway. So she was born prematurely in 1911, and her real name was Vangelia Pandeva Dimitrova. She lived with her family in the city of Strumica in modern-day North Macedonia, which at the time was part of the Ottoman Empire. So within a couple of years of her birth, the area had come under Bulgarian rule when the Ottomans were driven out during the First Balkan War. There's always so many problems in the Balkans, isn't there? So Vanga's family was very poor. Her father fought in the Bulgarian army in World War I, and her mother passed away while she was still very young. However, she still managed to lead a relatively ordinary life during her early years, but that would all change at the age of 12 when a mysterious event robbed her of her sight. So during a large storm, this is interesting, isn't it? During a large storm, a tornado supposedly lifted her high into the air and dropped her into a nearby field. Her eyes were so badly damaged she could no longer open them without suffering excruciating pain. She lay in the field undetected for several days as her family members desperately tried to find her. When they did, her eyes were sealed shut, encrusted with a thick layer of dirt and sand, and her eyesight was lost forever. Very interesting. Anyway, she later claimed she experienced her first prophetic vision during those days, lying alone in the field. She believed she had gained abilities beyond our mortal realm and could not only predict the future, but heal people as well. This reminds me of that film with John Travolta that I was talking about earlier. So he got struck by lightning, I think, in that film. Anyway, she later credited her paranormal powers to invisible creatures, although she struggled to fully understand who or what they were. So in 1925, she attended a school for the blind where she learned to read Braille. However, she was unable to write, and so everything she said and predicted was captured and documented by those around her. And just as an afterthought, Mother Shipton never wrote anything down either. So all the things that were written down afterwards were by other people. She never wrote anything down. So anyway, so validity, because of this, validity has been cast into question because she didn't write them down. Anyway, of course, her reputation spread and thousands began to flock to see her to gain insight from the Balkan Nostradamus. So, czars to peasants, political leaders to movie stars, she was visited by everyone who made the pilgrimage to her home in the mountains, to the Kozu Mountains. And then she got a husband as well. Oh my God, you know, like there's obviously there's this. If I want to get a husband, now I'm only joking. But yeah, one visitor became a future husband when she tied the knot with Bulgarian soldier Dimitar Gushtarov in May 1942, and they remained married until he died in 1962. Gosh. Now, now this is interesting. This interested me. Stories abound of times when people went to see her and received no advice. Sorry, I have to have a drink. My voice is going already. But so sometimes she would simply give people a refund and a request to come back in a few months. Those people were said to have then passed away in the coming weeks and months. Vanga had supposedly predicted their deaths but didn't have the heart to tell them. So she simply asked them to visit again soon. She gave them the money back and told them to visit again soon. A request she apparently knew they couldn't fulfill. So now, as the 20th century progressed, it became clear even to her skeptics that Vanga held an uncanny ability to predict major world events. So in 1989, she claimed, American brethren will fall after being attacked by steel birds. Innocent blood will be gushing, which many attribute to the 9/11 terror attacks. She was also said to have predicted the sinking of the Kursk, the Russian submarine that went down in 2000. She said it would be covered with water and the whole world will weep over it. So she was 1 year out, though. She also predicted the 44th president of the USA would be black, which Barack Obama took office. And some even believe that her stating that Europe would cease to exist by 2017 was a reference to the 2016 Brexit vote. Anyway, apparently she predicted her own death, stating that she'd die on August the 11th, 19 Hello. Sorry, I'm not sure what happened there. Oh. I'm here. Can you hear me now? Yeah. It just makes me laugh when people do capitals as if I'd understand. Right. How far did we get? Can you hear me now? You can hear me now, can't you? Let me get my camera back. Yeah, touch the wire. It's bloody annoying, it is. Hello, I'm back. Hey. Hi, Mohammed. Yeah, I must have touched a wire or so. It's so irritating, that. And the trouble is, when I'm talking, I don't know. I'm back. I'm back in the room. I'm back in the room. Now, where did I get to? Where did I get to? I wasn't gone very long, was I? I don't think I was gone very long. I don't know where I got to before I went. But anyway, that's Baba Vanga. What do we think about Baba Vanga? Do we believe in it? Do we believe in these prophecies? I don't know how far I got telling you about her. I don't think I was gone long, was I? Was I gone long? Okay. Anyway, I'm back. I'm back in the room. Barack Obama. Okay, let's see then. Let's take it from there. So I'm just going to read it. I'm not going to try and put it back on the thing because I don't want to click any. So Barack Obama. So apparently she predicted the first black president. So let's see where we got after that. Right, let's go back to that. Yeah, so we did about the 9/11. Yeah, so Barack Obama, she said, predicted the first black president, and she also said that Europe would cease to exist by 2017. So some people think that was a reference to the 2016 Brexit vote. She predicted her own death, saying that she would die on the August 11th, 1996 at the age of 85. There's another one who's lived a long time as well. She died from breast cancer. Her funeral attracted vast crowds. Okay, so she's got a few predictions. This is what I was saying before it clicked off. We should expect the arrival of aliens at some time in 2022. But we did supposedly have aliens, isn't it? So, anyway, she predicted aliens coming to our planet in 2022. She says world hunger will be eradicated in 2028. And she said that a Martian colony will gain independence from Earth by 2256, which we won't live to see, of course. Yeah, but apparently scientists tested her and said she had an 85% success rate. Okay, that's basically all you missed, I think. Okay, so yeah, there's been have a look into Baba because I'd never heard of her before, so it's interesting. Now I'm going to move on to Nostradamus because I've still got quite a lot to get through. Now let's have a look at the Nostradamus predictions. Well, work out. I think a lot of it you've got to contextualize it. Like Nostradamus was a 16th century French astrologer and physician. and he died in 1566. He's supposed to have predicted his death as well, his own death. So it's his book, The Prophecies, that have created the attention around. He actually did write his prophecies down. So he was born in December in 1503 in the south of France. He was one of 9 children who had a Jewish descent, but they changed their religion to Catholicism in the end, so to avoid persecution during the Inquisition. So there's not much known about his childhood, etc. But he became an apothecary. Although by then he was a Catholic, they changed to Catholicism to avoid persecution, but he didn't like the teachings of Catholicism. So he was expelled from school in the end. Now, he was prolific during the plague years. I mean, there was just plagues one after the other there. Apparently, he travelled through France and Italy treating victims of the plague, but he never really, I don't think he ever actually got the plague, caught the plague himself. So there was no real remedy at that time, and we think COVID's bad. I mean, it's ironic really, isn't it? Because throughout history, really, these diseases, obviously the plague, the Black Death, there's been lots of sort of scourges, hasn't there? And our latest one, of course, it has been our latest pandemic was COVID. But in those times, there was no remedy for the plague. So they relied on potions made of mercury and bloodletting with leeches, etc. And all sorts of weird and wonderful treatments. Anyway, he developed some very progressive methods for dealing with the plague. He didn't bleed his patients. He and he was right, practice hygiene, because a lot of the plague was about hygiene, was not something then, was it, that people really practiced. And there was just like dead corpses all in the streets, and people didn't wash, did they? This was especially in Britain, I think because of it being cold. In hot countries, people always did, were probably cleaner because it was hot, so they'd make more, but I think in Britain it was quite well known. I mean, it's still Spanish in Spain now. The reputation is still that British people are not clean. And that came from Henry VIII, Catherine of Aragon, when she went over to England to marry Henry VIII. She couldn't believe that people didn't bathe every day and stuff like that. So, you may not know that and you might be offended by that, but that is something that I know in Britain, in Spain, they do think of British people as not being clean because they don't shower. I mean, it's probably changed now, but showers are quite a new thing in Britain. When I say new, I mean, well, certainly in my mum and dad's lifetime, nobody had a shower. I mean, it was just, you didn't have a shower. You had a bath once a week, whether you needed one or not. It was like, I'm just, talking about, and these sort of stereotypes, these sort of things go back, it takes a long time to sort of get them out, just like British people have got the reputation of drinking tea and having afternoon tea, which is not true, of course, of everybody. Anyway, there's lots of stereotypes for all different nationalities, and there's always a little spark of truth in them, I think, but because certainly in these times, hygiene was not a thing in Britain, definitely. So Nostradamus, he was the one who started, well, it's France and Italy as well, in Europe, traveling around Europe and saying that the best way to deal with this plague is to practice good hygiene. And he became known for creating a rose pill, a herbal lozenge made of rose hips. So much can be attributed as well to keeping his patients clean, administering low-fat diets and providing plenty of fresh air. So he was a bit of a revelation, because in those times, if people were ill, they used to sort of lock them in, like women when they were pregnant or whatever, and they were about to have a child, they'd be locked in a room like for a month or so, well, more, probably a couple of months, with no fresh air. Fresh air wasn't thought to be a good thing then. So he was before his time, because don't forget, we're going back 500 years. Anyway, he got married, he had 2 children, but they died. His wife and children died, presumably of the plague, while he was traveling on a medical mission to Italy. And anyway, so going ahead to his prophecies. So when did he write them? So he channeled all his energies into a massive opus he initially titled Centuries. He planned to write 10 volumes, which would contain 100 predictions forecasting the next 2,000 years. So he published Les Prophecies, or the Prophecies, a collection of his major predictions. So all I really want to know are what are his predictions. So let's see. That's probably on a different. Let's have a look at Wikipedia for his prophecies. So he claimed that his prophecies were made from astrology. Astrology is how he made his prophecies. That's what he said. And he wrote them down in these. So he's supposed to have predicted the Great Fire of London, along with Mother Shipton, because she's supposed to have predicted that as well. The French Revolution, the rises of Napoleon Bonaparte and Adolf Hitler, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and also the Twin Towers attack, the same as Baba. I can't remember her surname. So, did he? So apparently, this is what he's predicted in his prophecies, which he did write down. But some people criticize it because they say that these quatrains that he wrote, they could be interpreted in lots, because what they're saying is that people have taken the things he's written down and applied them to things that happened, so not necessarily that he predicted them happening, but people have sort of manipulated it. And and maybe it's true, because I've got to be honest, I have not read his quatrains. You can read them. Let's have a look if it's a content of the quatrains. Yeah. So they deal with all sorts of things: plagues, earthquakes, wars, floods, invasions, murders, droughts, and battles. But people have interpreted them as those things I mentioned: the Great Fire of London, the rise of Napoleon, the rise of Hitler, the atomic bombs, and the 2 towers. So, next year, I dream big. I don't know what's coming next year. Yeah. Well, sorry, I'm just going back through things. Yeah, Rustic Rage. Yes. Well, the zombie apocalypse, like The Walking Dead. It felt like that, when it was COVID, and I just remember going to the supermarket or whatever. God, the roads were so quiet and empty, and that it felt like The Walking Dead then. Irish Eyes doesn't drink. I know people. So I'm not casting aspersions. So I'm just saying what I mean, I'm sorry, but I am old enough to remember when we literally had a tin bath before the fire. Really, because we were poor. We lived in a council house. I remember all the excitement when we were modernised, and the central heating was put in and things like that. I mean, it's within living memory. It's not that long ago, is what I'm trying to say. So younger people, they take all this for granted now, don't they? They wouldn't even think that they might not have a shower, might not have a bath whenever they wanted one, or an inside toilet. But we're talking about living memory. We're not talking about 200 years ago. So, it is, and of course in Spain it's different because it's hot. So you've got, my God, in the summer I have about 20 showers a day, Oh, do you remember that, Renee? There was, when the year turned 2000, I remember being out with friends and everything because there was an eclipse. That's why. And everyone thought the world was going to end, and we were all there with a drink, like expecting, don't know what we were expecting, wondering what was going to happen. Anyway, it didn't happen. So yeah, it's oh, you don't know about Nostradamus, Stuart, because he's very, very, very famous. But yes, don't forget to like. Please like. That really helps. Do you remember Irish Eyes in school? You used to get that horrible loo paper that was like Izal, it was called, and it was like really horrible, really sort of hard, and oh gosh. I was 16 before we got, well, I might be 14 before we got modernised. It's not that long ago. We're not going back 200 years. We might be going back 50 years or 40 years. It's not that long, is it? And I think young people don't appreciate sometimes, which is fair enough, because the things I don't, when I was young, I didn't realise what, people had gone through before. It didn't do us any harm, I suppose. Oh God, Rio, that loo roll, it just was impossible. It was impossible. That's it, Esal. Yeah, that's what they used to have at school. Well, when we went through the recession here in Spain, in the schools, they took the loo roll out of those. You had to ask for it at reception if you wanted to go to the loo. At school, you had to go and ask for the loo roll, and so my son would not go because he wouldn't go and ask for the loo roll. And he'd come home, he'd be dying to go to the loo. Yeah, on a string, dream big. Yeah, exactly. So we don't know we're born now, do we? We're like we're living in luxury now with Andrex. No wonder people are obsessed with loo roll, because you remember in COVID, loo roll just got sold out, didn't it? Everywhere in Spain, just the same. It was like everyone just went and bulk buyed loo roll, because it's like something it's funny how you realise what's important. We realise but in COVID we realise what's important. Of course, we've all forgotten it now. But it's funny, all the necessities, and loo roll is a big necessity, isn't it? So yeah. Right, okay, so that's Nostradamus. So we've gone through Baba, whatever, the Bulgarian woman that I'd never heard of before. We've gone from Mother Shipton. We've talked a bit about Nostradamus. Now, what I want to look at now is something that we didn't, that people often don't, because this struck me. This is all because when I was a kid, I remember being terrified of this. Do you remember the story of Revelations? That the beast, the 666 beast, because when I was young, Gorbachev had that. Do you remember Gorbachev, the Russian president? He had that great big birthmark on his head, and people said that was covering up young people. You know, like when you're a teenager and whatever, you talk crap. You know, all sorts of rumours go around, and it was widely thought amongst young people and everything that Gorbachev was the 666, the beast, and that birthmark was covering up the 666 on his head. And of course, that was the time that the film The Omen came out. And, you know, I think each, you know, epoch, if you like, you have things that people talk about, rumours and stuff like that. So I was, when I was young, I was terrified of the revelations. I really thought, you know, that this was going to happen, that the beast was going to come out. And what I always remembered was about this thing about the vials, the 7 angels, each given a vial or a container. So I'm reading now off something off the internet. And each of the angels would pour out these vials upon the earth, bringing the judgments or punishments of God upon the wicked. And I don't know why I was sort of obsessed with this. I think it's just probably there was a lot talked about it at the time with films like The Omen, etc. And then when COVID happened, I thought that what if COVID is like one of the vials that's been unleashed, like this illness that's been unleashed across the world. But I'll tell you what, there's some things in the Revelations that are really quite sort of scary. The book of Revelation, let's have a look at this. I'm going to share this with you. No, it's funny how things scare you, like because of what you remember when you were a kid or whether people talking about it. So there's things like about, well, I mean, there's quite a lot of them, but the things that I was looking at today that I thought, oh my God, things about like earthquakes, fires. Look at this. There occurs the 6th seal. There occurs a great earthquake where the sun becomes black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon like blood, and the stars of heaven fall to the earth, and the sky recedes like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island is moved out of place, and the people of earth retreat to caves in the mountains. And what this sort of made me think of is, you know, this climate change and all this, you know, they're saying there's going to be places that you won't be able to live anymore because there'll be so many floods and earthquakes and hurricanes and what have you. So it's quite scary, I think. This, to be honest, the Revelation scares me more than anything. I don't know why, it just does. And then it says the 7th seal, silence in heaven for about half an hour. 7 angels are each given trumpets. An 8th angel takes a golden censer filled with fire from the heavenly altar and throws it to the earth. I mean, that's a bit like Maui, isn't it? What follows are peals of thunder, rumblings, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. And after the 8th angel has devastated the earth, the 7 angels introduced in verse 2 prepare to sound their trumpets. And the trumpets, hail and fire mingled with blood, are thrown to the earth, burning up 1/3 of the trees and green grass. 2nd trumpet, something that resembles a great mountain burning with fire. Well, that's a volcano, isn't it? Falls from the sky and lands in the ocean. It kills 1/3 of the sea creatures and destroys 1/3 of the ships at sea. 3rd trumpet, a great star named Wormwood falls from heaven and poisons 1/3 of the rivers and springs of water. So there's a lot of fish just turning up dead everywhere at the moment. Here in Spain too. I don't know. Then it talks about locusts. From out of the smoke, locusts who are given power like that of scorpions of the earth, who are commanded not to harm anyone or anything, except for people who were not given the seal of God. Now, I'm not going to read it all out because apart from the fact I'll terrify myself, I might scare you. I don't want to scare anybody. You can go on Wikipedia and read the Revelations, or they're in the Bible, etc. just this to me has always scared me. They are prophecies. It's just that we're talking about prophecies. But of course, this is like, you know, there's some people really believe in these things. I mean, to the extent, because the Lori Vallow case recently in the USA, she believed in the revelations and she thought that the world was going to end, and, you know, all those sort of things. So, and that's why she thought the world was going to end in July this year. But of course, I wonder what she thinks now she's in prison and it didn't end. But, you know, it's just things that I think of. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Hawaii and the fires and volcanoes. And I'd like to do it. I will be doing more videos on the Maui fires because there's all the, you know, conspiracy theories around that. So that's the revelations. Now, the last thing that I want to look at, which is also interesting, I think, hope you find it interesting too, are the Simpsons predictions. So do you know that the Simpsons are famous for making predictions, aren't they? Let's have a look at what the the Simpsons have predicted. Well, this was a big prediction, was that Donald Trump that would become president. Is that? Actually, I'm coming off this because I'm bound to get copyright for this. I'd rather just read them out, to be honest. So let's see. So yeah, look at this one. Oh, hang on. I don't know if I'm even on it. No, I'm not on it. Yeah, a submersible disaster. I mean, look at this. And that's just recently happened, hasn't it? Earlier this year. Fans made the connection between the Titanic submersible disaster and the episode Homer's paternity coot. And that was in 2006, that episode went out. Then there was the good particle. So this is I mean, I'm not a science person, but it shows his attempts at becoming an influential inventor like Thomas Edison. And he makes this, you know, he puts up this sort of, I don't even know what you'd call it, a math equation on the chalkboard. And apparently a British science writer, Simon Singh, told The Independent that the final figure that he came to isn't too far from the 2012 Higgs boson discovery. Now, that means nothing to me, but anyway, he seemed to think it meant something, and he's a scientist. Malfunctioning voter machines. So, oh God, I wish it would stop jumping around like that. Sorry, that's not me. So the episode went out in 2008, and the voter machines episode. Oh, it's jumping about. Sorry. But a real event, a similar event, would happen in 2012. So after the episode went out in 2008, a similar thing actually happened in 2012 with a viral YouTube video showing an incorrectly registered vote. Then we've got the tobacco plants that he combined. He grew plants that were sort of half tomato, half tobacco in 1999. And then apparently around the, oh God, I'm never going to be able to pronounce that, Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant real-life counterparts emerged. Deformed vegetables and fruit popped up and looked like similar to Homer's creation. Accessible space travel. So in 1994, there was an episode. God, it keeps jumping about. Stop jumping about. So that they foresaw space travel, for accessible space travel, which was an unrealistic idea at the time. God, keeps jumping down. Sorry. Deep Space Homer in 1994, and of course now it's being talked about all the time. You won't get me in a spaceship. I just don't understand the space thing. Why do people want to go into space? Just don't get it at all. Need to look after the planet we're living on, in my opinion. But anyway, so that foresaw space travel. In 1995, they had an episode where they had smart watches, 15 years or 10 years before smart watches were ever invented. In 1994, they had an episode where they talked about serving horse meat in the school. And then, of course, there was a scandal about horse meat going into Tesco burgers. That's why I don't eat meat. Yeah. So in the school, she was casually adding horse meat to the meals, but there was a big horse meat scandal in 2013 in the UK where 29% of the animal was used in Tesco burgers, and millions of beef products were pulled from all around Europe. And there was a big outcry about it, obviously. Nobody wants to eat a horse, do they? I mean, anyway, so 1994 was the episode. 2013 was the scandal. Then there was the three-eyed fish. Do you remember that? Because, of course, Homer worked in a nuclear plant. And quite often they would show these... Oh, God. Sorry, it's just jumping. So Blinky, some of the Blinky, the three-eyed fish, has been in quite a few of the Simpsons episodes. But about 10 years ago, Argentinian fishermen caught a three-eyed wolffish in a reservoir near a nuclear plant. Then there was the baby translator, which was in 1992. But today there are quite a few baby translator equivalents on the App Store. Cry Translator, Baby Talk Translator, and Soundream. What was the next one? Oh, Michelangelo's David being censored in one of their episodes. Oh, stop jumping around. This is going to get on my nerves. Why is it doing that? So, censoring Michelangelo's David in 1990, the statue of David, clothes were put on it to censor it. And in 2016, a copy of the statue on display in St. Petersburg sparked controversy, and the citizens voted to cover it up or remove it. It's been deemed too pornographic. Then there was Lady Gaga and the Super Bowl, 2012. Oh, God, why does that keep jumping? One of their Super Bowl episodes included a prediction of a musical artist's performance. Lady Gaga in the 2012 episode, and then in 2017 she performed at the Super Bowl, and she was also lifted above the audience and also played Million Reasons on the piano. So 1998 they predicted the Walt Disney and Fox merger. which apparently happened in 2021. So they predicted it in 1998 and it happened in 2021. And then this, to me, was the biggest one, the Trump presidency. An episode in 2000, they predicted that Trump would become president. And that always strikes me, because I know I've seen Donald Trump being interviewed mentioning about president, and he was like, he was making a joke of it. He never thought he was going to be president. So anyway, he was president, and maybe again. Oh God, stop doing that, stop doing that, stop doing that, please. Right, done that, done the president. Right. Sorry, there was a FaceTime episode. I'm whizzing through these a bit because I want to show you the last one. I feel like the fireworks display is going to happen soon. Yeah, there was one where they were FaceTiming. There was the Matrix 4. Pandemic. The pandemic. That's getting on my nerves anyway. So the last one I want to show is separate from that. And this is the most recent one. Well, I say the most recent. It's not the most recent prediction. But this is the Hawaii one. Bye, Irish Eyes. Night, night. This is the last one anyway we're going to look at. Oh, is David going to bed as well? Everyone's going. Yeah. So I just want to show you this last one, which is the Maui, Hawaii.
Hawaii, here we come. Anana Kuli Makawani and Ona Nana Lula Hawaii.
Hawaii? What about Hawaii? Mo, who's going to Hawaii? Am I going to Hawaii?
Stop saying Hawaii in there.
You fools! You've erected a massive concave reflective surface. It will focus the sun's beam in a deadly ray.
Hey!
There you go.
First off, I'd like to thank the good people at Tianjin Smelting and Mining and Donuts and Tops for neutralizing our wonderful, deadly new lard lead.
Okay, now you might have heard that first firework going off. Did you hear the first firework going off? Who predicted Nicola Bully? Oh, your granddaughter's got, yeah, night for everyone who's going. You may be able to hear the fireworks have started. So, no, it's not a war. Oh, look, Riley, come here. My dogs are terrified. So, I'm going to have to go because I've got to give him I've got to give my dogs a cuddle because can you hear the bangers all going off? Even the blue was in. Oh, I didn't notice that on their Dream Big. But I'm going to do another video about the. Can you hear the bangers? Oh, that's interesting, DMV. I'll look for that. If you find out which episode it is, let me know. But I've got to go and sort my dogs out because the fireworks are all just going crackers now. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I enjoyed it. Oh. But this will go on for about 10 minutes. So remember to always live and love very wisely. Oh, do you know, but it's brilliant that I did actually get most of the video done before it started. So remember to come here, Riley, come up here. You're going to come and say hello. Come on. No, you won't. They're all nervous. So remember to live and love very wisely. See you really soon in the next video. Thank you so much, everyone. And may your God go with you. Thank you.